Alrighty. Hello, everyone,
Hey,
and welcome
everybody.
back to another episode. Today,
Yay.
yay! Today, we are here to welcome Mr. Rocky with us. Hello, Mr. Rocky. I
Hello,
really
how
want to
are
call
we?
you Rocky Balboa.
Hi,
You know that, right?
Rocky.
Hi. It's glad to be here. I'm excited.
We're
Oh, we're glad to
excited to
have you.
Yeah, I'm excited.
yes.
I'm
Mm,
grateful.
Well, that's interesting because we're very grateful to have you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So I don't know about you, but let's just jump right on in. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So tell us a little bit about, I guess let me start here. I will start. So you and I met. I was Ubering and um, I had the most amazing pleasure of actually picking you up, which was really cool. And that's how we met. And you started to tell your story. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's an amazing story. And I felt like the world needs to hear your story. That's my opinion.
All right. Well, I'm here. So,
And
got it.
so, where in there, I know that you used to be former military, correct?
Correct.
So let's start there. So thank you, number one, for your service. We always appreciate that.
Thank
Which
you.
branch were you in?
I did 4 years enlisted Air Force, got out, got my education, and then went back in the Army as an officer. So, 4 years Air Force, around seven Army.
Nice,
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what you did with them?
Nothing too crazy. Just kind of Air Force was just an enlisted job. So basically, you have your high school education, you go in, you get a job. Nothing too intricate. Just did command and control. So like a lot of like dispatch stuff, I would say.
Hmm.
And then the army was much different. So I commissioned as an infantry officer. So that was combat arms. Never went to combat, but trained like it. Did the job as that, and then I did HR stuff for probably the remaining 2 years of the contract after my captain's course. And then
Very cool.
yeah, then after that, I just decided it wasn't for me, and you just move on. You do something else.
Hmm.
And then you joined civilian life.
Yes,
Yeah.
I jumped into civilian life very fast.
Which is always
Mhm.
challenging, as I understand.
Correct. It was challenging because I was supposed to go to law school in St. Louis. Got
Oh,
accepted into the school. Separated from the army in July of um, 2024, and then the law program was going to start um, like mid August to late August, and that would have been literally like a 3 month or not 3 month, but 3 week turnaround to get into a law program, which is pretty strenuous. So I
mm,
went through the 3 day course. They just kind of show you what's going on, and then it was just too much. So I had a lot going on in my mind, on my heart, and I went to go talk to a dean, and kind of we came up to the decision, just all right, we can hold off on that. So I did some public health courses, and then I decided that wasn't mine either. So that was just kind of in St. Louis, just kind of just I don't know, existing in a way.
Hmm.
as I say, just kind of treading water until.
Yeah, just floating around and no real direction. And St. Louis, I didn't have any family or anything, so it's just kind of I was stuck in this military world to where I always feel like I had to do something, or I have to do this, and then I really didn't have to do any of that. But I was just in that mindset of, always constantly just working, and so I ended up in St. Louis.
Okay.
Hmm.
And is that where you had this experience?
It was actually I was visiting a girlfriend of mine. Um, we are still together to this day. Uh, Ronnie, I told you about that too. I was after I was having my coughing fit, I thought I had COVID, but I did not. It was just like coughing like crazy. But yeah, I remember telling you that. And then so it was in St. Louis. I left St. Louis to go to Kansas, near Kansas City. I was going to go visit her for a little bit. Saw her for about a week, and then was going to drive back to St. Louis. And probably like 10 minutes on the highway, that's when it happened.
Okay, so then let's talk
Yeah.
about everything that happened. So this was a car crash.
It was a car crash. It was
Okay.
on November 11th out of all days, Veterans Day,
Mm.
go figure.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
A funny thing, on Veterans Day, you get like free meals and stuff. And I had never used any of that. I'm just like, oh, it doesn't matter. So I was like, oh, let me look up some free meals. Let me just have some fun with it. Anyway, I was on the highway. I left around like 11 a.m. to 12 noon. Um, got on the highway. Probably was there for like maybe 10 minutes. Um, I was driving in. It was a 5-lane highway. I was driving on the very slow lane because I had to get off in a little bit, and I kind of explained this to you briefly, Ronnie. And I was slowing down, and I just noticed like a big group of cars just ahead. It was the middle of the day, so there's probably a little bit of traffic, but not much. And I had to get off, so it was just slowing down kind of. And I heard these sunglasses like going back and forth in the side door, and it was just driving me nuts. Um, so the second I reached for them, I literally felt them in my hand, and then yeah, I guess this truck. It was pretty strong. I didn't see it, but I think I was told it might have been a truck. And they kind of like did that maneuver that cops do, where they'll hit somebody in like the rear driver's side tail light to spin you out. So that's what happened. So the guy, I don't know what the deal was, but I was told the area is a little dicey. And I was getting off, ready to get off, and then the other guy, I guess, was getting on, and then he spun me out, and then I spun out to like 2 or 3 lanes to the left, and that's when I got hit by another car.
Mm.
Um, so then I was just kind of stuck. And when it happened, I looked up at the ceiling, and I'm like, just brace yourself, just get ready. And yeah, it was like slow motion. I really didn't hear anything, and I was just spinning and spinning, and then I got hit again, and you could feel it. It was just like a big clunk. Um, so then I got pinned in the car. Got pinned in the car, and I was just laying there like I knew everything just was very still. I remember a lady came in, she comforted me. Um,
She
I was
came
just,
into your car?
yeah, so my car was already off on the side, and then she actually got out and opened the door and was just kind of checking on me and being there for me. But
That's great.
the guy that actually spun me out, he was never caught. He took off,
Mm.
and that's a whole situation trying to deal with on its own when you think about what happened, which I'm still kind of haunted to this day about it. But yeah,
I'm sure.
the second guy that hit me stopped, um, and he was talking to the police, but we don't know who that first person was.
Mm.
And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, maybe I'll just yell. Maybe someone will like hear me, but I couldn't really yell. It was just, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. I was just stuck. So I'm thankful I had a newer car because, who would have known what an older car, how that might have took the hit. So,
Mhm.
Okay. And so what were some of your experience, like what in your head was going on at the time of all of this impact? Did you have
um,
any of those moments where you were like outside of your body by chance? Did you have any moments of the proverbial life flashing before your eyes?
right.
I'm trying to lighten it a little bit by
Yeah,
laughing
yeah,
because,
yeah. No,
whew, because I'm actually forcing myself to breathe because you're an amazing storyteller and I can see it happening.
it's okay. I think the biggest thing that I noticed was it was just really, it was really quiet. I couldn't really hear anything.
Mm.
And it was just all slow motion. Like if you would imagine a car spinning you out and you going across lanes in the highway, but it wasn't like a dizzying thing. It was just very slow. And I was just looking up at my ceiling, just thinking, all right, just sit there and be ready for it. Because when you go across, multiple lanes, you're at the mercy of everyone on that highway. And I
Mhm.
just, I
It's
just, I
it's
just,
scary.
yeah, I was just there, and it was just brace yourself. Yeah, and and then I would think about, you always hear stories about people in car accidents, and I was just thankful like the car wasn't on fire, stuff like that. Like I was fully aware of what's going on, but just paralyzed, like I couldn't do anything. and it was very, very slow. Um, and then when the car stopped, like it felt like everything was just like going fast again. But like during those seconds, it felt like a very, very, very long
Minutes.
time. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it felt like a very long time.
So were you trapped in the car for a long time?
Um, I would say long enough to where you would think, because it was a highway full of people, and you would think like someone would just come right away,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually did. Like they got pretty fast to come see me, but it just felt like a really long time. Like I was just laying there, like just it was a very long time. But it really wasn't. It felt like that, but it was not.
It's like time shifted for you. First it was going really slow and then it was fast again. And then it was
Yeah,
seems like it maybe have slowed down again. And at
yeah.
this point you're still conscious, you're awake, you're aware.
Conscience awake. Yeah, I all of that. It was
Mm-hmm.
just, yeah, it was kind of like if you could just slow everything down if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it felt. Like I felt like I was in control of how fast time was going. But I just laid there and I don't know. I just was at the mercy of anyone who was on the highway. And yeah, it was pretty kind of, it was pretty scary when I look back on it. But at the same time, I felt pretty calm. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, oh, here I am. I'll just I'll just yell out. If that doesn't work, then I'm just kind of just here. So
Wow. Wow.
Mhm. And so you finally got to the hospital because they finally brought you in.
I did. I got to the hospital, and I didn't want to call anyone because I just felt it would have been a huge burden. Like I didn't want anyone to come see me or try to help
Excuse
me,
me.
because during my time in St. Louis, that was when I was kind of becoming a recluse and keeping my distance and space from people. So when I was there, I didn't want to talk to anyone. I didn't want to call anybody. I was very reluctant and hesitant to do all that. Till eventually I'm like, I just have to, because I just thought it was just a bump and then I'll get on my feet and leave. But it wasn't like that. So
So you were starting to recluse already.
yeah,
Was that because of the transition coming out of the military into civilian life, or is that just something personal you happen to be going through at the moment?
no, I've always just been kind of an introvert.
Mm.
Always been an introvert since I was little. I would have my own little space in my room and only come out when I needed people. So I'd come out, get my people time, and then go back into my little space. And then in St. Louis, it was, I don't know, I just got out of the military and I was just, yeah, it was just one of those things where it was just aimless. And
It
this
was
whole, yeah,
time.
this whole process really taught me how to embrace and talk to people. Like when I was talking to you in the Uber, I wouldn't have talked like that to anyone else before, but I recognize like you need to have connection with people and we need community. And so this whole thing has really opened my eyes to that, because I wouldn't have got through my situation and my experience without family and people. So
Good for you for recognizing that, and thank you for
yeah,
sharing, because that's
of course.
that's kind of a big aha.
Mhm.
Takes a lot of bravery to admit. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right. So what else do you want to share about this? So we were at the hospital part, and so you finally did get some friends and stuff like that.
I did. I called.
Allowed. I shouldn't say got some. Allowed
Yeah,
people in. Yeah.
yeah. I called my girlfriend, so she came up. She got a hold of my mom, and then my mom and my brother were there that night, so they flew
Mm.
up real quick. Um, yeah, and I was just pretty miserable for quite a while in there. I was very active. I did everything on my own. As an introvert, you like you don't need anyone. So to have people like brush your teeth or comb your hair or shave your face is, and do other things that in hospital care they have to do.
Mm-hmm.
It was definitely some, yeah, it was a heck of a lot
Unpleasant
to take that
moments, I'm
down.
sure, and
Yes.
humbling.
unpleasant, humbling. I had to let my guard down in a major way.
Mm.
So it
So
sounds like your injuries were pretty extensive.
that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
I still deal with them now, but I'm
Okay.
recovering pretty quickly.
So let's talk about that. What were your injuries?
I had a broken neck,
Mm.
so to fix that, they did surgery on my neck and they put some titanium in there. Had a fractured back in multiple places and fractured ribs or broken ribs, and I still deal with those now. So if I like lay down on my left side, it's pretty painful. I feel like throwing up a lot.
Oh,
So I
baby.
try not to lay on them. But yeah, those are the extent of it. And then I had something called Brown-Séquard. So my right side was strong. I was telling you, Ronnie, my left side is weak. But then my sensation on my right side is dull, and my left side sensation is strong. So it's like
That's interesting.
it's just a big crisscross, and
Yeah.
I still deal with that. Like my hands get really cold. They haven't been warm since November 11th. They've always been cold. And your hands are the last thing to recover. So, and the full thing is supposed to be like 18 months.
And we're how many months in now?
So November 11th, December, January, February, March, maybe close to 5.
Yeah, almost 5 months, 4.5
Yeah.
months.
So yeah, and essentially I was paralyzed. So I was in a manual wheelchair, or power wheelchair is what they call it. It's the one with the little, the toggle
Lever.
switch. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I started off
The
in
joystick.
the joystick. I started off in that, and then I moved up to a manual one eventually, and then canes and all that stuff.
You've had a heck of a journey.
Yeah, I remember the first time I tried to stand up, I stood up for like 2 seconds and I sat back down. I was in some parallel bars, which are just bars on either side of you. And I'd had people like get me up and I just couldn't even do it. And now I'm just walking around.
Wow.
So went from a wheelchair to doing yoga like I do now. So
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yoga.
it's a
That's right on my alley, friend.
yes, I've been doing it for 3 years, and I would say that doing that has definitely, it's just I tend to believe that everything that happens to us is going to happen regardless. So
Mhm.
all the yoga, all those things that I've done, my eating habits, things like that, just prepared me for this accident, and it's going to happen no matter what. That's my belief. I don't know what y'all believe, but
That's
No,
an
I can
interesting
see some of that
perspective. Yeah.
because I think there's a lot of things that are dependent on other things that may or may not happen, but there's certainly some specific events I think that we're meant to have or
yeah,
that we need to have um to keep us online of wherever we're planning to go or however we
yeah.
want to do that. Yeah, yeah. So let's get a little bit into your experience itself. What happened to bring you to your experience?
As far as the accident,
No, after the accident, you're in the hospital
mm-hmm.
and you're working on recovery and you've got your family around. And then I'm assuming you had an event of some type.
um, I think it's just, I think my event would be just kind of a day to day
Mm-hmm.
thing. It was very, I'm miserable. I can't
Yeah.
stand this.
Yeah.
And then it was eventually like, it's like, okay, I need help. Help me with this. And
Mm-hmm.
then slowly, over a very long time, you start to do things on your own more. But when people are doing things for you and you have to relearn like how to use bodily functions and all these things,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's pretty humbling. It's very eye opening. It's something that it's something that you take for granted, not you specifically, but it's something that somebody would take for granted if they didn't go through what I went through, or if they didn't go through something similar. Because you really
Right.
don't think about walking. You really don't think about using the restroom. You don't think about, like, if your hand doesn't work, you have to use everything with one hand. Like, you don't think about those things.
Well, we take our autonomy for granted all the time. And then it must have been humbling to have to really go back to basics and have people take care of your basic needs for you.
Yeah. Because
And yeah.
I was very active, still am to the extent that I can be.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was hard, being stuck in a bed or a chair, and you just meet everyone that you come in contact with that have
Mhm.
been disabled and don't get things back. So I tend to take everyone that I come across and learn from them. And I use them as like human examples of perspective in a way.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you've had a lot of like it's a growing experience almost. Like it really sounds like you've had some tweaks to your worldview a little bit in terms of yeah, yeah.
And
Um
I was talking to my mother about all of this, and I just told her how I was getting, I was just thinking about how I would probably need to go get some professional help, which I think I do.
mhm,
And she was just talking to me about how I've changed and I'm just different now, and how I have this perspective and serenity about me, is what she said. And I do recognize that. Like, I feel light sometimes. I
mhm.
feel at peace. I feel thankful that I just wake up every single day. But at the same time, those moments where you're just driving down the road, or you're just like sitting around and just looking outside, it's kind of like these things come back to haunt you, and they try to take your joy away. So it's a very good practice and strengthening to recognize when those haunting feelings are coming to try to take your joy away, that it's kind of like working out. You notice them and you just do your best to just get rid of them, and not push them down, but recognize them and grow from them.
Feel the feels, get through the feels instead
Yeah.
of just pushing it off to the side.
And they're
Let's
going to be
just get over it. You actually recognize it and feel the things.
and there are going to be a lot of things that I'm going to have to reconcile with, and I try to. And I think, and my mom asked me what I was thinking about after, these feelings come back to me. And I just wonder what it all is, what, what it was all for. And I know it has to be more than just for me just to grow personally. Like, there has to be a bigger picture. And I don't know what that is yet. And I'm fresh off the accident, and I want to have answers like right away, but I look forward to, like, it's sort of a mystery and you just kind of figure it out.
Well, this may be another slow motion time.
Yeah.
You know, you're going through what you need to go through to regain your physical health, and it sounds like spiritually or however you want to phrase it,
Mhm.
you're really seeing having some insights and you're really seeing things a little different and it's that may be what I mean, maybe that's what you're supposed to do is just tell people how, you have this life altering event. And I guess you can go either way with it. You can fall into it or you can grow from it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're really working on the growing part and also acknowledging the hard parts, acknowledging like I tell people, if the darkness comes, send it love and bless it and send it on its way. Don't just ignore it,
Yeah.
right? Um so it sounds like that's kind of what journey you've been on right now.
I would say
Um
so.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
I like how you said it was a slowing down experience, because I always
Mhm.
felt like I just had to do something. Like, jumping into law school right away from the military is just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even have my books yet, and I was supposed to go to class, and it was just so odd. But I'm glad you said it was a slowing down process, because I really had to just slow down. Everything from putting on your socks is a slow down process.
Yeah, it took you, like I said, right back to
Yeah.
basics. And I think sometimes people, if you're feeling like you always have to do something, but you're treading water doing it, or you're trying to do too much and you're getting overwhelmed or something. I mean, one of the things we tell people is take a minute, sit down, take some deep breaths, prioritize, do, all that life coaching stuff. But
Mhm.
then if you don't do it, the universe is going to hit you over the head with a 2x4 and make you do it.
Yes.
And
Very true.
yeah, but also like you said,
They do.
things don't happen without reason. So I think it's really amazing that you're able to start pulling some I don't want to say life lessons, but you're pulling some new insights and stuff
Yeah.
about life out of this absolutely life-changing experience. That's an important message to share to people right there, you
Right.
know? That's part of what you're probably supposed I mean, I'm gonna say I think you're probably supposed to be talking about it, but um, that's what it, yeah. Yeah, and it's courageous to come out and talk about it too,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are going to shove it away, put it behind a door, whatever. And but coming out and talking about how it actually feels to have somebody have to help you in the bathroom or have somebody have to brush your teeth, like you said, that's a big deal. That's a big deal to come out and talk about it.
Yeah, I remember I completely agree. I remember in rehab, um, like when you get there, you're the new guy.
Mm-hmm.
I was a younger guy in the VA hospital, and apparently, like it's just like older folks that go in there that are just really in bad shape. And I remember my friend Mike. He's like, "Look, it's like we're in chairs, but you just got to accept it." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "No,
Yeah.
no, it's just gonna be up to me. Like, no one knows me but me, and you could have medical professionals with their opinions, which are always different and varying.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna keep trying and walk until I just can't. And I've just had that kind of switch flipped uh,
Mm-hmm.
because like no one's gonna tell me what I can and can't do.
Right.
So
Um,
speaking of that, what was your
yes.
prognosis when you had all the surgeries and all of that?
Yes.
What was your prognosis when you
Um,
first came to and in those beginnings? Did they think you were going to be paralyzed for life? Did they know you would eventually walk, or were they like, we don't know, we got to wait and see?
yeah. So it's a good question. I remember in the hospital we had this group call. This was in the hospital I had where I had surgery. So I had this group call, and I'm just laying there. Everyone's in the room, and this is about before I discharged to go to Dallas for rehab. And they had mentioned, or someone had mentioned over the phone, and this could be just protocol, or it could be how they really felt. I don't know, probably a little bit of both. But they were talking about putting me in a nursing home. Um, my girlfriend Emily, she told me that they said that I might be walking at the end of the year. Um, but every piece of equipment I've had it for just a little bit of time, and then I get rid of it because I move on to something. I just improve. Um, so I do think that a lot of people didn't think I would be where I'm at right now. Um, for instance, in my physical therapy session today, we had a re eval of my first one. So they just kind of watched how I walked, how I you know different patterns, my gait, things like that. And my progress, like we did a 6 minute walking test where you just go in a laps over and over and over. And I had increased by like 0.66, something along those lines, like 0.66. And like it's typical to only improve like 0.02 or zero point 0.1.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my PT is like,
Really?
yeah, my PT goes, well, you made huge progress, but maybe we don't expect you to do this again. And I was like, no, I'm gonna do it again. We're gonna get some more. But it's just you're only in the hospital under people's care for just a short amount of time. And a lot of it is up to you to listen and do what they
Do
ask you
the
to do.
work.
Yes.
You got to do
Right.
the work.
Constantly doing it.
Man,
Yeah.
you got to do the work. That's everything, man. It really
So
is. Wow. So you've done all that. So are you do you feel like you're pushing yourself? Or do you feel like you're just listening to your body and your body's okay?
so that's a good question.
A little bit of both.
Before my accident, I would just push myself. Like I was just unhappy, right? So it wasn't very happy. So I would just do things to physically exhaust my body so I couldn't think.
Mm-hmm.
I
It was
understand that.
kind of like the idea of like, I don't know, I don't know what kind of words I can use here, but kind of like I was harming myself in a way to
You
where,
can use whatever words you want, honey.
yeah, I was harming myself in a way to, like, I was just in a bad state to where I just didn't love myself. So I would overwork myself so I couldn't think. Because when I thought, bad thoughts were going
You
through my
didn't
mind.
like the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
No. So it's either be physically tired or mentally just go off on yourself. So, or just go in and the unimaginable, like in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, I would always constantly just overexert myself and get tired. And then
Oh,
after this accident, it was, I still caught myself sometimes like overexhausting myself. Like I would do a hot yoga session and then I would go in the pool and swim.
Mm.
And today I'm feeling it. Like I'm so tired. Uh, and then it's okay just to, be kind to yourself and just like go home and just relax. And yeah. So in a way, I'm slowing down in a lot of ways after this accident.
And
So
you've got to be. It's not uncommon for people to try to avoid things that they don't want to have to think about or deal with or feel in various ways, and working out a lot or pushing your body to its hardest extremes is kind of on the common side of things you can do, because you can even tell yourself, well, it's healthy for me, so it can't be
mhm,
bad. But actually, what you're saying, you're kind of push all that stuff inside, but you get to a point where it's got to be dealt with. You've got to do something, and it sounds like that's where you've been working through that, and now acknowledging that it's okay to just rest, and that it's important to let those
just.
thoughts have their say, and then let them go, understanding that it's it's okay. It's part of what we are and what we do.
yeah. And in a way, I would like kind of take it easy for a while, and then I'd jump right back into the old ways.
Well, old habits are hard to break.
Yes,
Patterns are
old
tough.
habits. Old
Hmm.
habits are hard to break, and like my heart rate's good, like I can push it, but my body is like, dude, you can't do it.
Right. And listening
So
to your body is
yeah,
hard. It's a hard lesson to learn right there, especially when you're coming from your background where you did some physical work, you trained for battle, you did this stuff, and then all of a sudden your body's like, nope, we're gonna chill, we're gonna take some
yeah,
time and we're gonna heal. So
right,
that's got to be like, and then that forces those thoughts in your mind to be like, well, now we can run around because you can't stop us,
yeah.
kind of a thing. Yeah.
It's like if you want to like go run somewhere, but your body is just stuck and can't move.
Yep.
It's
Oh,
just like that. Like I can't.
Does it ever kind of feel like a dream sometimes? Because I can imagine that people would try to equate that in their head, kind of resonating. It feels a little bit like a dream. Like, if you've ever been scared in a dream and you try to scream, but you can't, the
And that's
sound
what I was
won't come
just
out.
yeah.
Kind of
That's
sounds like
exactly what just went through my brain just now. So
mhm.
you kind of
that's,
you read my mind a little bit.
uh,
Kind of like if you're trying to run away from something or a
and you
scary
can't
thing,
move.
you can't move. And it's
Yeah.
similar to that now. Like it's very similar to that.
So I think that there's two lessons you're learning here. Number one is learning how to just be. All this slowdown. I know that and I'm going to speak from my own personal experience, I used to be that way. I was a go, 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 go. I was the busiest of busybodies. Didn't
Mhm.
nobody out busy me. And I mean, I was.
Like that.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I kind of, excuse me. Um, Sometimes I kind of still am. I get really busy and I really get going and I get so engrossed that I forget to stay present.
Right.
And so that has been a long lesson for myself, learning how
Yeah.
to stay present and mindful each moment, each moment, not just for 5 minutes, every freaking moment. Be mindful, be there with it. So learning how to be was a big one. It also sounds,
Do you feel like that's relatively new, or is this just a recent
um,
realization? Or was it
I
years
started
of
coming
practice?
into, yeah, oh yeah, it's taken me a while to get here. Um, a little hard-headed on occasion. Two
It
by
makes things
twos, two
interesting.
by fours, you know. I've had sometimes a 2x8, but whatever. Um, just saying, you know. Um, yeah, that has been a work in progress for a solid 10 years. Learning how to be present. And you know, we all do it. We all do the things where we're on a good track and we're doing all the things and we're down a good road, and then something happens and somewhere or another we open our eyes and realize we're off track again.
Yeah. I notice that so I read every morning. So when I'm reading, my mind will just go to things that I might have to do today or, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, wait, let's dial this back,
Mm-hmm.
let that
Yeah.
go and get back
Yeah.
into what you were doing. So I totally get that.
Yeah, we all do it. It's normal, you know, and it's part of learning how to control our mind. And am I better at it today? Oh, yeah, honey, I'm a lot better at it today.
Well,
But
mindfulness in and of
I
itself,
wouldn't
it's,
say
yeah.
that I'm even
Hmm.
proficient yet, though. I
N-
think maybe that's a goal, to be proficient with mindfulness. I just thought of that. I'm thinking about this. I'm looking at you, Deanna. I'm like,
Yeah.
hold on. I'm processing this as I'm talking now. Like, that's some interesting. The other thing I was going to say, though, is it definitely sounds like you, and I'm going to surmise here, and please correct me if I'm
Okay.
not. Okay.
Sure.
Sounds like you're learning how to actually enjoy life.
Yes.
It sounds just the little snippet that you gave before. It
Mhm.
doesn't sound like you really enjoyed living.
No, it was pretty hard.
And they were like,
It
"Hey,
was tough.
it could be better. Let me show you.
Yeah. I was speaking to my
Let's give you this freaky freak out."
before I left rehab. I was talking to the therapist, and
I,
she was talking to
I
me
know
before I
2A.
left, and or the psychologist. I'm sorry, and it was like she's like, "So you want to go to law school?" I was like, "Yeah, I do." She asked why, and I gave the reason, and she goes, "Well, it seems like you don't like rules." I was like, "I really don't like rules. Like, I don't really like people telling me like it sounds bad, but what to do." Um,
Nobody likes
That's
being told
not
what to do.
bad. Yeah, I was gonna
Nobody
say.
likes it.
and
Nobody.
she's like, "Well, you were in the military for a long time, then you want to go to law school, and it's all very
Regimented.
regimented. It's rigorous, and you don't really want to. I guess you don't want to be in the box, but you're like constantly putting yourself in that box, and
I love this therapist.
yeah, so it made sense. I kind of clicked, and then I realized, hey, I don't have to go to law school. I can do what I want. So
Yep.
yeah,
So you're now trying to decide what you want to do.
I I have two choices. I applied to two universities here. One's for anthropology, and one's for sorry, I just for philosophy.
Oh,
So I
cool.
like the idea of going into philosophy, possibly becoming a professor one day. I just think philosophy is just cool. And then I find
But
humans
what
just
an I'm sorry.
interesting.
I got
Go
so
ahead.
excited. I'm like, and what an amazing thing that you could do. Like, philosophy would be so freaking cool for you,
Yeah,
because look at your two different, completely different perspectives. The
exactly.
first part of your, you know, you can have this first part of your life, then you're going to have this little transition interim period, and then you're going to
Mhm.
have whatever the next segment of your life is going to look like. I mean, you're still young. Um, I don't recall if we talked age here, but
No, you're still
it
young.
doesn't it doesn't matter. You're still quite young. And so then you know, depending upon, do you know how many different, yes, man. Are you kidding me? Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. I have done
it would be
so
awesome.
many different things in my life. And
Mhm.
I'm always so grateful to have done all the things that I've done in my life. And let me tell you, I've done some crazy ass. I've done some stuff. And I just feel like because of those experiences, though, good, bad, whatever, you know, all of those interesting experiences that I've had made me more well-rounded,
Yes.
more accepting of so many different people.
Mhm.
I'm so much more less judgy. I'm not judgmental at all anymore.
I agree.
I let that go a while back.
Yeah,
It takes a lot for me to be judgy, and when I
right.
do judge, I catch myself, and I'm like, "Oh, girl, who are you?"
Very
You
true.
know,
Yep.
I
I
am
do the same
nobody to
thing.
be judging anybody else. So I think there's a Deanna, which is spiritualism. I think there's a saying in the Bible. I use this all the time. I know you don't know the Bible like I don't, but here we go. I'm hoping. Those who live in glass houses shall not cast
Yep.
stones, something to that
Yep.
effect. We've all heard that to some effect,
Hmm.
but I say that a lot. Those who live in glass houses, honey, because I've done some things. Um, but like I said, it makes you more well-rounded.
Right.
It makes you have a different perspective. It gets you to a place to where, I don't know, you can look at a person in a wheelchair and not feel pity for them or sorry for them because that's the last thing anybody needs,
Yeah.
you know, and just be like, "Oh, so what's that experience like living in a wheelchair? Tell me about it."
Yeah.
So
Um,
that you can just understand instead of there's no judgment. I'm just seeking to understand.
yeah, I think I'm with you. My judgy side has definitely went down a ton because you just don't
Yeah.
know what people are going through. We all know that. And then it's just like we're all just doing our best, and we
And
all
some
have our
people
thing.
have more knowledge, some people have more experiences, some
Yeah,
people have less experiences. Maybe they've only lived in a little place like this and they don't know anything outside this. And you just
exactly.
have to understand that's where they're at. And you meet people where they're at.
Yeah. And then you don't know what you don't know. I mean,
Right.
and what do we really know? You know what I mean? Like, what do we really know?
I love
Nothing.
that. I say that all the time. You don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. And
I
then what do
love
we
Yep.
that.
really know?
Well, my grandparents had this little plaque with a saying on it that you don't know a man until you've walked a mile in his shoes. And, I think that's so incredibly true because we see everything from the perspective of us. Our
Mhm.
ego and all that is like, well, everything's going to be about me, so I'm going to perceive everything
Right.
in relation to me. And it's not until we are really able to kind of have that growth and have those experiences that let us realize that it's really all of us and it's really all of us are all the same or we're all the same, we're all connected and all that stuff to really let you know that there's really there's no difference.
Right.
And judging other people is just judging yourself.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
very well said.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you have a reaction to somebody, like, where's that coming from? Like,
Mm.
I don't
Right.
know. It's a whole different thing.
But that's so true because if you have a gut reaction to something, you got to look at that and say, well, I wonder why. Why does that do? And people don't want to do that work a lot of the time. They're doing whatever
Right.
they're doing,
They're
and
doing the busy work instead of doing the actual work within.
Yeah.
right. Until they end up in a situation like yours where there's really no choice and you have
Mm.
to do the hard work.
Yeah.
You
And
have
then the
to.
word, yeah, exactly. And then the word should pops out.
Hmm.
Like if you have children, right, you're gonna be like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, you should be with someone that does this. But there's no shoulds. It's like
Exactly.
you do what's gonna be best for you. And if I say you should do something, that's what I would do, and you're your own person. So you
Right.
do what you need to do.
Well,
Very
when
well
people
said.
tell me what I should do is usually when I become a little oppositional defiant. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nope. Not if you tell me to do it, I'm not going to do
And then
it.
you want to do it very, like very, very less. So,
And
Yes.
then here's me. I'm like, why? Why should I?
Yeah. I
well,
don't
we
Yeah.
even
need
question. I just say no. Don't tell me what I should do. And then I
Hell,
go do
I
it.
exactly.
liked
Yeah.
I'm always trying to understand where they're coming from. Why do you think I should?
Oh,
Yeah, and then
yeah.
before I would always make decisions based on what other people would want me to do, but there's just this empowering feeling to be like, no, I'll listen to you, but it doesn't mean I have to do what you want. I'm going to do what I want. Like no one's going to tell me
Right.
any other way. So
Very good.
that's another lesson I've learned.
Yeah. And
Very good.
that's a big one.
Mhm.
It
It's,
is. It's super huge.
coming out of feeling that you need to do what you're told versus realizing that you're actually autonomous and you really can make your own decisions and
Yes.
nobody really has the right to tell anybody what to do. I mean, we
Exactly.
tell our kids don't touch a hot stove, things like that. But when it comes to the big things in life, like, you should go to this school or you should be with that person, no, just whatever you want
That's
all the
that's
time.
that's a very good example. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think we've all come across situations where we're told what we should or shouldn't do on these major life things. And I mean, you have the choice. You either do what somebody tells you to do, or you make your own decision to do what you want to do. And again, you had this like specific
Yeah.
middle area where you have a before and you have an after, and you can see how I can see how from what you said, your kind of your worldview is changing a lot into some really open roads and open pathways.
Did y'all ever go through a phase where, like, if you want to do what you want to do and someone didn't like it, you would feel like you let them down? Like, have y'all ever went through that?
Oh my God, yes.
Is that
Mm,
just something you
hmm.
shed? Is that like a skin you shed over time?
Time in therapy. Just being honest, that's how I did it. But no, yes, I think,
Yeah.
we're brought up as
Lots of inner
kids.
work.
Yeah, as
Lots of inner
children.
work.
We're told you have to do this and you have to do this. You have to go to school, you have to go to bed, you have to eat your dinner,
You
you have
hear
to da
that
da
for
da
the
da.
first damn near 18 years of your life.
Hmm.
You are
And
told everything. Literally for the first 10 years of your life, you are told everything. That is your programming.
right, and your parent, not all parents, but some use love as a tool to get you to
Mm,
do things. And that's where
mm,
you end up having some of those breaks and being able to really make
Right.
do what you want to do and not feel like you're letting someone down. But if like somebody says, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to go to your house to somebody, and then they're like, oh, well, fine, I guess you don't really care about me. Yeah, your kids are gonna absorb that kind of thing. That's an
Right.
example, but yeah, and so when you grow up thinking you have to please everybody, I mean, you can look at there's different cultures where women are subservient by culture, by different ways of living, different things that are different from what I live. If it works for them, it works. If it works for somebody and it works for someone, well, I'm not telling anyone at all that what
What they
they
should
do
do.
is wrong or what they should do. But there comes a time in for a lot of us where we kind of realize, well, just because it's gonna make you feel bad, does that have to make me feel bad? And we realize that we're only responsible for our own reactions, and somebody else's reaction has nothing to do with us. I mean,
Not my
it's not like
business.
if you're not walking around and telling someone, "Oh, you're awful and I can't stand you and you're ugly and all that." Well, yeah, then you should feel
Right.
bad. Oh, I said should. Then you probably will feel bad. Or maybe it's a good thing to feel bad. But if you're just trying to be a good person and live a good life and making your own decisions, if somebody else is having trouble or that's on them.
Yeah. I was given some good advice maybe like a few weeks ago. It's where you can't control what other people, how they react.
Nope.
Mhm.
And I made a decision, a personal decision, not too long ago, and there was some opposition to it from family. And I felt bad, and it really tripped me up because after my accident, I'm like, look, I'm my own person now. I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm not gonna feel bad about anything. And then it was just I was going back to those old ways where I was just feeling bad for the way people felt. But then I realized if
That's
they
not your
feel a
problem.
certain way about this decision that I'm making, it's not about me necessarily. It's about maybe like a self-serving thing. Like they thought they were right or they thought they knew what's best for you and you're completely making your own decisions. And it was just really eye-opening.
The dynamic also changes when you go back to having your family as your caregiver for a while because it throws everybody back into the old roles. It's kind of like when you go to a high school reunion,
Mhm.
say your 10th or your 20th or whatever, and you may be like this whole big professional person doing all these professional things, but you get back together with the people from high school and you're out there running pranks and chugging beer or doing whatever because you kind of go back into that mode of who you were when
Yeah.
you were with these people. So if your family steps back in as kind of a nurturer or somebody who's helping take care of you, it's hard to come back out of that again. It's not, I mean, it's hard when your kids grow up, it's hard. And when they leave the house, it's like, okay, empty nest, there they go. But then to have them come back in, sometimes families get confused and those boundaries get blurred all over again. But this time, you are completely old enough and able to make your own decisions. And it's
Yeah.
kind of like untangling some threads again to get them
And
back.
parents have to learn that. That is a
Yeah.
learned behavior on parents as well, because I I know that there are numerous times a mom, and I mean moms out there, hello, I'm one too, I get it. We have told our 25-year-old child, because they're still a child to us, don't
Right.
do that. And then I went, oh gosh, I am nobody to tell you that. I apologize. But those knee-jerk reactions, just those natural reflexes come in. Like, what do you mean you're going to go do da 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 for what? Blah, 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 blah. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah. Who am I? Who am I telling this to? Yes, I'm telling my child, but you're not my child. You're a grown ass human.
Right.
I need to respect that and allow you to live your life. So let me take a big old cup of shut up, and just mind my business.
Well,
Well,
I learned that
I
by
think I did it
saying,
a little bit younger than 25. I think my cutoff was about 20, about 22-ish maybe. I don't think after that I did too much, but
no. Once
I
mine were
know
away at
that.
college, that was it. Once they went to college, I was like, I started asking things like, "Oh, you're going to do that? Oh, why?"
Yeah,
Or,
but you have to think about it, and you have to think about the way that you actually do things. I mean, how many times, I don't know, how many times do you have the natural instinct in the car when you slam on your brakes to
to go
put your
like
arm out
this.
to the side?
Hmm.
Whether you're a parent or not, I know people who aren't parents
yeah.
who still do that. It's so there's that kind of, nurturing type
Yeah.
aspect that comes out of people unintentionally sometimes.
And
Right.
Ronnie, I think I had a moment like you had with your child to where this was just over the weekend. My
Oh,
oldest my oldest brother, he's in his mid 40s. My son he'll be 14 in June.
uh-huh.
And we were all in the same, like we were all crashing in the same room. And
That's fun.
they're like, my brother's like, so do you have like a girlfriend yet? Do you like anyone? And he's like, oh, not really. It's not really his thing right now. And then we just started talking about, like, my brother and I started talking about like who like is best, like suited partners and stuff. And then one time my brother's like, oh, you should be with this type of person. I'm like, oh, you should be with this type of person. And eventually I'm like, wait, you just need to do what's best for you and just go with that. And whoever you like, you like.
Yep.
It was very innocent and just,
Yeah,
the 13-year-old. But
it
I did
is.
notice, I'm like, wait, hold on. Um, yeah, you do what you want to do, what makes you happy, and I'm just here to support you. So I'm glad I've kind of found that out now.
Yeah, I feel like I got that a little later. I wish I would have. No, no. I kind of did it. I mean, I just did things differently. I was a very hands-off mother, very laissez-faire, just very hands-off. Kind of let him do his own thing, probably a little too much. If if I think about it sometimes, I could have. It was a tough time.
See, I raised my kids on natural consequences because I read that book, Children the Choice by Dr. Dreiker, and it became like my parenting. It was for me, it was like the Dr. Spock book of the whenever I was raising my kids, 80s and 90s. And I would tell them why I thought it would be a good idea to wear a winter coat because it's 20 degrees out. So if I was in your shoes, I would want to wear a winter coat because I would want to be warm. But then if they would choose not to wear their coat, that was their choice. But the thing that comes with choice is consequence. And so they'd come home from school and they're, oh my God, I'm so cold. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cold outside to be outside without a coat. But I wouldn't say you have to wear one. I would just say, this is why I would.
Yeah.
But make your choice, understanding that the consequence you have comes with it. So I had a little easier time when I started thinking that way because there were
Oh,
some looks from other parents for sure why, my daughter might be wearing a tutu at Wegmans and my son is outside in shorts in the middle of the winter. But you know what? I didn't have to suffer any consequences they did.
Yeah.
The tutu's not really a good example because that was just cute, but whatever stuff they were doing.
yeah, but I mean, look how long it took us to allow your kids to dress themselves.
Oh no, I did that early. I
But
might,
how many
I
parents
was raised
don't?
different.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, a lot of, yeah.
I was raised to where I could not make choices
Oh, I wasn't at
about what
my, I
I was.
wasn't, yeah.
Yeah, no,
I was
I
free to do whatever. I mean, I had a liberal parents and liberal with rules, but liberal.
Right.
mhm.
Yeah. So like my daughter, that's the thing with the tutu. She wore these cat's eye glasses that she got at Claire's because they look like someone on a soap opera I was watching, and she was 3 and liked it. So she wore those, and she wore little tutus over her pants
That
and
is so
whatever
cute.
she wanted. And
Pretty
my
cute.
son was the same way. It was like, well, if you want to wear your X-Men shirt every single day, just take it off so I can wash it every other day and you can put it back on,
And we're groovy.
because that's what
Yeah.
you feel okay about. And I I mean, he was the only kid in his kindergarten class with spiked hair because he asked me to spike his hair. Okay, why not? Why
Sure.
not?
Hmm.
You're only
Yeah.
5'1", go for it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, and those were the
self-expression for
type of
sure.
things
Yeah.
I totally, yeah, because I grew up with that. I grew up with being so told what to wear all the time. I was the complete opposite. I
Mm.
was like,
Mm.
free reign, wear what you want. You want to wear those dirty clothes? Okay. You can wear those dirty clothes. When I didn't have the natural consequences though. That was the part that I did not have. So there wasn't enough explanation behind it.
Right. Mine was, well, if you don't, you really ought to pack your backpack before you go to bed. And then the consequence of not doing that is almost always forgetting something. And I'd be like, well, I'll get there when I can, but I'm doing things too, and I want to help you, and I will help you, but I have to do it not necessarily right away at I mean, things that it makes me sound like I was a terrible parent, but really my kids learn quick. There's
Well,
consequences to everything.
and you also put in critical thinking.
Yes. Yes.
And honey, coming from a former teacher, dude, critical thinking is a skill set these days.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Deanna, I was telling my son this morning, he was taking out the trash before he caught the bus. I'm like, why don't you just take the trash out at night? He's like, oh, well, night's my time. I was like, all right, if you can,
Hey,
if you can
whatever.
not miss the bus and do the trash, go for it.
Right.
Whatever works
There
for you.
you go. See?
So
There you
Right.
go.
Right. So that teaches the critical thinking. That's
yeah.
exactly. And so we've gone so far in a tangent somewhere.
Mhm.
But do you see how this all circles back to?
Yeah.
It's all connected. That's what we say all the time, man. Everything is all connected. Just because we don't see the connections doesn't mean it's not connected.
Yep.
So, Mr. Rocky,
Yes.
what would you say your top two, if you have three, two, three, top ahas are out of this experience so far? Because we've only been in this for about 5 months now.
Okay. Top ahas. Are we doing three
Yeah,
or
the
two?
big, whatever you want to give. What do you feel? Sometimes there's like a two with a 2A, I don't know.
Okay. Um,
If you only got two, then just two.
I would say the biggest thing for me, and this sounds cliche, but it's just very true. And it's like every day you wake up and you're here on this earth, it's very precious. Um, I had a friend or a family friend,
That
and
one got me.
I have a family friend, and she gave me some gift cards when I was in the hospital, and she visited me over the weekend. And I was like, I told her, I was like, I wanted to call you up and thank you for giving me those cards. I was like, I was just going to see you today, and it was yesterday. And then I thought to myself, who knows if we even get tomorrow? So I remember that little instance. So whenever you want to, life is precious. And whenever you want to, if you have to say something, if you have to do something, like do it then, and don't put it off, because you don't know when you get the opportunity to do it again. So I was like a 1A, 1B. And then my second one would be probably personal autonomy is really special. Being able, as being a physically active person who didn't need anyone, to have that potentially stripped away from me and having to have people care for me, the thought of that for the rest of my life was very eye-opening. So just being able to have control over your body or have control over your thoughts, and you do what's best for you and advocate for yourself, I think is probably my second aha. So those two things are really big for me.
That is really
I love
beautiful.
that.
Yeah.
Those are some big ones to
Mhm.
share.
It got me right there.
Yes.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Yeah. Hey, can we have you on again?
Yeah, I'd love
Awesome.
to.
We would love to have you on again, just because I want to watch you grow. We'll
Yeah,
see you in a
that'd be great.
while. We'll give it
Yeah,
some time, let you heal, continue healing,
okay.
continue healing.
I'd love to. This
Um,
was this is it was very beautiful, is the way I can like talk about
Yeah.
things with understanding people, and there's just something about talking about these things with women opposed to males. It's just better. Y'all are just more understanding, you know. So
Oh,
more
well, yeah, I mean,
I can see that. I think men are getting there though. We've had some really amazing gentlemen on the show who they're very open-minded, and you'd
awesome.
probably feel more comfortable around them. I think it's unfortunately it's part of the whole stereotype,
Yes.
people feel like they have to fit roles sometimes, and it's hard to be, I think, and this is my own personal opinion and I could be right or wrong. I think it's hard for men to be okay with woo woo. And we're not just woo woo. We're very woo 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 woo.
Yeah.
we're
Feel
very
free to add some more
I
woo.
spiritual.
love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
I
feel
really
free to
Yeah.
do.
add some more woos, honey, because that's how far up there we are. We're
It just
like,
you
Yeah.
just being that way just uncovers a bunch of layers, and nothing surface. Like there's just always more and more to discover.
Exactly.
So
I
I think
love
that's
that.
yes, there's
yeah,
always more to discover.
this accident's kind of, it's opening my eyes to trying to find more people like me, because I don't know if they're just going to show up. I mean,
They
they'll show
will.
up, but like Ronnie showed
They,
up.
Right. And you're here
we
now,
do.
so
We
everyone
show
who
Yeah,
up.
watches this is showing
awesome.
up.
And I was going to say, you just shared, we are not big. I told you we've only been doing this actually. We
4
started a month after you. So this is, we started December 1st, right, Deanna?
Yes. I
Awesome.
can't
Yes.
remember.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it was
I'm
December
like,
1st.
yeah.
Yeah, because it was in November that, yeah, so December 1st. So we've only been doing this for 4 months. So our audience is not huge at this point.
But
Okay.
growing.
However, we
Yeah.
are growing, and we're growing, and you got your voice out there in a big yet small way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, none
It's
of
a
this
big
is,
platform.
yeah,
Mhm.
none of this is small, and
Right.
it can really, experiences definitely help people, hearing from other people that went through it. So
Butterfly effect too,
yeah,
it ripples
but
out.
this isn't
It's
small.
all good.
This is big in our lives. So I think it's pretty
Hmm.
major.
I think it's pretty big.
Mhm.
Deanna and I talk about that like it's bigger than what we realize because we see numbers,
Yeah.
right? We look at the back end of things and we see numbers. But there's still certain times that I know we're bigger than the numbers, if that makes any sense.
Oh, the numbers are just kind of like arbitrary markers. It's different than that. It's
Right.
what we
Uh-huh.
talk about and who I
Who
mean,
needs to hear
who
it?
hears it? Right.
Yeah,
You
man.
know?
Yeah,
What is it? I said to somebody, when the teacher is ready, the students will come, not just when the student is ready, the teacher will come. So it works both ways.
It
yeah,
does.
So yeah, thank you for coming in and bringing your message to us. And I do look forward to hearing from you again and
yeah, for sure.
getting some more cool spiritual insights from you
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
absolutely.
hearing about your journey. So this is generally the time that we start to wrap up. So, Ronnie, did you have any shout outs?
I do. Justice. I did that thing.
Justice.
I didn't ask again, darn it. All right, Justice. Hello, friend.
Mhm.
All righty.
Yay.
That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head right now. I think there was one more. It'll come to me after this, of course. That's how it always goes.
Well, I'll do
Because
my shout out.
I didn't write them down this time.
I didn't either. My shout out goes to my entire Spirited Soul community on Facebook and in the wider world. I want to say
Hi,
hello, everybody.
guys.
I'll be posting this up on the Facebook page, but hi to all my supporters and the people that come to me for readings and all the fun stuff that I do that way. So I wanted to throw that out there really quick. Rocky, is there anyone you
Yes.
want to say particularly shout out
Yes.
to or say hi to before we?
In
We love shout
particular,
outs here.
I would say anybody who's struggling, you got this.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Beautiful.
you can do it.
Wow.
All right. So on that,
Yeah.
we're going to start to sign off. So I would like to thank everybody who is out here listening. Rocky, thank you so much for coming and
Thank
getting
you,
into
thank
the
thank you.
Uber. And
Ronnie took the call.
I'm the
so-
lucky
yes.
one.
Yes.
I'm the
But you
lucky
needed
one.
the ride. You picked him up. It all worked out.
Yeah.
And as always, to anyone out there, if you have an experience or a talent or something that you would like to share, put it in the comments. We will get back to you. We may have you on here. Questions, ask them. We will get back to you. We will answer you. So I think with that, we are going to sign off. So as always, be blessed and be blissed. You are loved, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Have
Bye,
a good night.
everybody.